In this video, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what happens after CeMAP, because most of the content that I put together is preparing you to get through your CeMAP. And that very often happens and people go, oh my God, okay, now what? Because you've got all of this build up to something momentous, like getting your CeMAP qualification. And then people get there and they hit the stumbling block of this feels like the finish line, but actually this is just the first step. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about everything that can possibly happen after CeMAP, starting with your employment or self-employment routes. So one thing that is very commonly misunderstood is that once you've got your CeMAP qualification, you cannot just go straight into an employed mortgage advisor role. And that's because you've never done the job before. So you need to get something called your competent advisor status. It stands for CAS. And CAS is what signs you off as competent in a mortgage advice role. So if you're looking to go down the employed route, you have to look for a trainee mortgage advisor role. A lot of people don't like that because they've seen the salaries associated with the trainee advisor, but there isn't another option if you are going to go down the employed route. So hopefully you'll be watching this pre-passing your CeMAP and seeing this firsthand to say, okay, for the first year, you are going to have to suck it up as a trainee whilst you get your CAS. So you need to be applying for trainee advisor roles. There are plenty available for you to look for on places like Indeed, Monster Jobs. If you're part of the WhatsApp community, sometimes people post job adverts in there as well. Make sure that on your CV, it says that you've got CeMAP and also that you put a cover letter together. One thing that people forget all the time is if you're applying for a job, there's probably 100 other people also applying for that job. If you don't have a cover letter, you're immediately ruled out. So make sure that you have a cover letter that's not generic. It is specific to the role, that you send in a good CV, and that your CV makes it very clear that you've already got CeMAP, because the benefit of applying for a trainee advisor role with your CeMAP qualification is it immediately puts you in the top 10% of candidates, because a lot of people that get the trainee advisor jobs, they don't already have CeMAP. Actually, what companies are looking for is things like, are you good with people? Are you a good listener? Are you empathetic? Those are the things that makes a really good advisor. Your CeMAP is just a regulatory tick box. It is not the be all and end all. So you're going to be applying for trainee advisor roles. The basic salary does vary dependent on the company, but it also varies dependent on location. Once you're in that role, it is the company's job to make sure that you are competent before putting you into a mortgage advice role. Now, this can take the company anywhere from 3 months, 12 to 18 months. The average I've seen is about 6 months. So you'll go through 6 months worth of training where you'll be shadowing mortgage advisors, you'll be learning about the business, about the systems and software that they use, and then they will effectively shadow you doing mortgage applications. When you've done a certain number of good mortgage applications that are signed off by the compliance team, they will give you your CAS. Once you have your CAS, you can then potentially move into a full mortgage advice role. That generally comes with a pay increase. The disadvantage is it is dependent on the company and whether or not they have availability for new mortgage advisors. But very often, when they take on trainee advisors, they take them on with the intention of moving them into a mortgage advice role as soon as possible. If you're applying for things like mortgage admin roles, they can always also be a really, really good pathway. So think about just getting anything that gets your foot in the door in mortgages once you've got your CeMAP is a really good pathway. And you can expect anywhere from 6 to 18 months to hopefully then transition into the full mortgage advice role, which is generally when your basic salary gets better and also you start earning commission on those mortgages. That's the employed route. The self-employed route is a little bit different. And a lot of people think that they can get their CeMAP and just start up their own firm. That's not how it happens. So if you want to go down the self-employed route from mortgage advice, you generally need to sign on under something called a network. And a network is a bigger company that has their FCA authorization and that can take you on as a self-employed individual. It can teach you all the systems, all the software, all the regulatory stuff that you need to know alongside CeMAP, and vouch for you as being a credible person and a good mortgage advisor. They will also get you through your CAS. Again, timeframes can vary. I've known some ex-students get through it in 8 weeks. For most people, it tends to take 6 months plus, but it is dependent on the company that you work for. The biggest mistake I see people make when they go down the self-employed route is to go with a smaller family-run firm that doesn't have the right training in place. So a lot of people are drawn in by a company that says, look, we are desperate for people who are self-employed to come and work for us. We will give you a really good commission split. So you get to keep part of your commission. They will take it. That's standard with networks. And we just need to be able to give you cases. And people who are looking for a career in mortgage advice go, oh my God, they're going to give me cases. They're going to give me leads. That is like the golden ticket. Not if they've not got the right training in place. Because if you've got a small firm and they've got 4 mortgage advisors that are already up to their eyeballs in mortgages, I can guarantee they do not have time to train you. And what they'll do is sit you in a corner and go, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And I have loads of students that come back to me after a year and they go, Charlotte, I've not even put a single case through yet because nobody's available to help me. Please don't make that mistake. So if you are looking at going self-employed, find a good company that are under a good network, or find just a good network that have a good training plan in place. So you want to have a conversation with them and they need to be able to go, cool, so on week 1, we will do this. On week 2, we will do this. Ideally, you want to have a mentor that is specific to you, that is going to be at your beck and call, so that if you have any questions, you can just give them a ring, because a lot of these jobs are remote and that's where people tend to fall short. So with self-employment, you can look for networks or companies that are advertising for self-employed mortgage advisors. Some of them will charge you a monthly fee for access to their insurance and their services and their training. Not all of them do. It can vary from £100 all the way up to £600, dependent on the network. So that's definitely worth doing your research from. They will also have something called a commission split. What that means is, as a self-employed mortgage advisor, you have to make your own money. You don't get a basic salary with most of these roles. So you will get to keep the commission that you make from putting a mortgage through. We actually don't call it commission. We call it something called a proc fee. But the network that you work for will take a percentage cut of that. And again, it varies massively. I've seen as little as 15% commission before, right the way up to 50% commission. So it's worth having those conversations. A lot of networks will do something where in your first year, they'll take 25%, but in your second year, once you've got your CAS and you fly in, they'll drop that to 15%. So it's really, really worth doing your research with these networks, because I would hate for anybody to make the wrong decision. One thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is if they do sign on with some networks, they say, if you leave us, you can't work in the space for the next 12 months. So please make sure you check in little things like that in agreements with networks before you make any commitments to go anywhere. So just to recap, you've got your employed route, which comes with a basic salary, which is great, but you have to work to be able to get upgraded to a full mortgage advisor. Versus the self-employed route, which is risky because you may not have a basic salary and the onus is going to be on you to probably find your clients. The flip side of that is they're generally going to want to get you your CAS a little bit sooner, and the earning potential isn't capped. Whereas with a lot of employed roles, I've seen capped commission. If you want to earn big money, you don't want to cap your commission. There is no right route. There is no right answer as to which one you should do. It's all going to be dependent on your circumstances. For some people, the idea of going self-employed terrifies them. And if that's you, you don't want to be lying awake at night wondering where your next client is going to come from. Go in for a trainee mortgage advisor role. You can always go self-employed in future. But if you're somebody who's maybe been self-employed for a little while before, or you've got a bit of a financial buffer so that you're not going to be living off pot noodles for your first 12 months of being a mortgage advisor, look at the self-employed path. That's what I would do if I was doing this whole process again. The first 12 months is really hard, regardless of which route you take. If you go down the employed route, you have a lot to learn. It doesn't end with CeMAP, it starts with CeMAP. Equally, going down the self-employed route, having to figure out things like finding your own clients, all of the admin, figuring out what hours you want to work, because some people can't speak to you till after 6 p.m. or they only want to speak on a weekend. That's fine. You have the beauty of being able to offer that when you're self-employed, but there's no basic salary. So there is a risk that if you've not got a bit of a financial buffer and you don't hit the ground running with it, you might end up having to live off pot noodles. But from the students that I've had that have taken that risk with self-employment, they've all said the first 12 months is a struggle. But it seems to be that they hit that 12-month mark and then they just run with it, and that's when they start to fly. So please make sure that you're doing your research before you get CeMAP qualified. Don't watch this video after you've got a new CeMAP and then think, okay, now what? Let's start thinking about those options now. And if anybody does need any support with looking for jobs or looking for the right network, you can always join my WhatsApp communities, which I'll link in the description. They're a really great place to be. People post jobs in there all the time, or they talk about their experiences working for particular companies. So that's a really nice place to be. And let me know if you want me to make more content post CeMAP. because everything I've done so far has been pre-CeMAP. If you want to know more about the journey after it, let me know in the comments and I'll make more.